Welcome to the Durango Botanic Gardens. My name is Bill Lemaire. I'm president of the Durango Botanic Gardens. And if you're not familiar with Durango, we're located in the southwest corner of the state of Colorado, an area that many people refer to as the Four Corners region. Four Corners because there are four states whose borders intersect not far from here: Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. Durango began life as a western railway town in the late 19th century, and today, though, is a major tourist destination. The Durango Botanic Gardens is also very well situated for visitation. We're located at the Durango Public Library and flanked on one side by the popular Animas River Trail, which sees thousands of people using it each day for running, hiking, bicycling, and so forth. And the Durango Public Library here to the east, or to the west, I'm sorry, is to the west, it gets about 400,000 visits per year. So well situated, a lot of people then are exposed to what we are doing here. The Durango Botanic Gardens began life in 2011. At that time, the library had just been constructed, and this area that you're going to see in a little bit here was a weed-infested eyesore that a number of public-spirited citizens gathered together and wanted to convert it into something beautiful. Thus, we have the Durango Botanic Gardens. We call this the Library Demonstration Garden. Library because we're at the Durango Public Library, and also demonstration because what we're trying to do with our garden, with 7 different growing zones, microclimates, to help people understand what would grow best in their particular area. And especially Southwest Colorado can be a very challenging climate to grow things in. So one of the things we try to do is work with the Plant Select organization to trial and monitor plants. So we have not only a kind of a demonstration capacity, but also an educational one and scientific one.
Morning. I'm Melanie Palmer. I'm the curator of the Durango Botanic Gardens, and I'm standing in one of our themed gardens. We have 6 or 7 in total. The name of this garden is the Wind Garden, and it's modeled on a Japanese garden concept. And the idea behind this garden, which was designed by Lisa Beret and Eric Lewis, is to represent a high altitude, austere, above tree line landscape where the wind is always blowing and the trees are very stunted as a result of that. So our tree selection in this garden are dwarf conifers. They will probably not get much more than 8 to 10 feet tall. The other elements in this garden are the rocks. And this is also part of the Noguchi, who was a designer of these types of gardens. This was also an element of his gardens, very minimal with sculptural elements. These rocks are called gabbro, which is an igneous rock. It was quarried north of town. If you'll notice, they have a bunch of dots or points on them. These were all hand pointed by stonemason Eric Lewis. And he left some blank spots in a banding pattern, which also represents the wind blowing through a very austere mountain landscape. We also added this gravel mulch. It is a contrast to the wood mulch. It's distributed in swoops and curves, and it enhances the appearance of the curves that are on these gabbro pillars. So when you come here, there's a lot more to it than there actually looks like. We have a great ground cover, which is the hummingbird trumpet mint. It'll be in bloom in a couple months, and it's a real showstopper. So if you come by here, stop on the river path here and take a look up and think about what these elements in here represent.
2 of our smallest gardens attract a lot of attention out of proportion to their size. This actual working sundial was built and is maintained by the Mountain Time Herb Society with a different kind of time in each of the hourly segments. Other herbs surround the sundial. And then the Durango arm of the Spirit of 45 maintains a small rose garden, which honors Rosie the Riveter, the World War II icon in particular, but also the critical role of women in maintaining materiel production during the Second World War.
Hello, I'm John Anderson, one of 29 volunteer docents of the Durango Botanic Gardens. We do tours of the gardens and answer questions from visitors. Here, on city property on the north side of the Durango Public Library, in 2018, we installed the Arboreta Gardens. I'm in the Cindy Smart Miniature Tree Garden, where we highlight diminutive and dwarf conifers that are especially well suited for the size and small city lots here in the city of Durango. Farther to the west behind me is a transition area of medium-sized understory trees, such as wafer ash. These trees, because of their size, will also be very well suited to the Durango public spaces and the residential lots here in Durango. We've worked very well with the City of Durango Parks and Recreation Department, especially the city arborist, in helping us choose appropriate trees for the size and space that we have here and have been historically underutilized for this area. Our vision is that people will come to the garden, see and consider that these trees will really fit very well in their residential lots here in the city of Durango. We also have given a lot of thought to the future sustainability and adaptability of trees in this area. This is a project that David Temple of Trees of Trail Canyon in Cortez, Colorado, has worked on for the last several years, going on trips into northern New Mexico and bringing back trees that he plants in his nursery in Cortez to see how sustainable they are for a change of elevation and climate that we know is going to be changing and warming in the future. No funds from the city of Durango were used to build these gardens. Rather, it was fundraising from our board of directors and donations from our many members. I want especially to thank Jim Fricke of the Colorado Garden Foundation for a 2017 grant that helped us fund the initial planning and design work for this garden, and in 2018, a grant from the Durango Public Library Advisory Board, which provided the funds to actually begin the installation of the garden in 2018.
A new garden, the Elevation Grass Collection, is being planted soon and will remind people both of the variety and functionality of ornamental grasses. This garden will showcase ornamental grasses in a variety of sizes, colors, shapes, and bloom times.
We have the large crevice garden down here. We have another small crevice garden at the base of the wall, and up above is a third piece of the crevice garden. Crevice gardens originated in the Czech Republic, and they have swept into the United States. We were fortunate enough that our crevice garden was designed by one of the foremost crevice garden designers. His name is Kenton Seth out of Grand Junction, Colorado. The boulders that you see in this crevice garden, a lot of them are buried. Probably 50% of them are buried in order to give the structure some stability. This rock, this gorgeous rock, is called Twilight Gneiss. Gneiss is a metamorphic rock. It was quarried in the mountains, in the Twilight Mountains above Durango. If you would come here and look at the arrangement of these rocks, you would see that they are roughly parallel. Other kinds of crevice gardens that use tiny slabs of parallel rock, there's many different styles of crevice garden. This is what we chose to do. We started out with 600 plants in here, and it was an experiment. We didn't know how many of them would survive. we probably had about 30% mortality, but the ones you see here have been in the garden for about 3 to 5 years, so they're doing really well. When we planted them, we used something called bare root technique, which means that we took the plant out of the pot and shook off all the soil and soaked it in a bucket of water so there was literally no soil clinging to it. The substrate in here is masonry sand, expanded shale, and a little bit of crusher fines. So it's really actually very easy to plant with a knife like a hori-hori. So by using bare root planting technique, we could get the roots way down into the sand. The temperature of the sand underneath here stays about 50 degrees. So we can grow everything from succulents to alpines in here. We have overhead sprinklers for a specific purpose. It mimics the monsoon rains that come here in Durango in July and August. So right now we have some gorgeous phlox, rock cress, bladder pods, and little fleabanes in bloom. So it's largely a spring garden. Most of the flowers bloom in spring, but there's always something to see here. So as you're coming by the river trail, stop up along in here and take a look and see what's blooming in the crevice garden. Some of the flowers are very tiny, and but there's always something new coming out every week. So the beautiful crevice garden.
You know, as interesting as people find our plants and flora in our library demonstration garden, they're also fascinated by our collection of artwork and also our hardscaping. For example, these mason's marks that many people find interesting, these cut stones that you're looking at right here were once provided a corral for livestock at our local fairgrounds. And the story goes that masons who would cut these stones would have their own particular mark, like this tic-tac-toe. This fellow had a sense of humor, I think. Each one had a special mark that would identify the stones they had cut so they would be paid for them. So you'll find we often challenge visitors here to find all the different mason's marks in these cut stones. Also, we have a lot of artwork like this puma up here to the west. And over here, what we call the Thomas Graham's Memorial work, also produced by the same artist that did the puma, Mickey Harder. You'll also see these pathway stones that are major fundraisers for us, as people will purchase one of these pathway stones, have a particular inscription, or someone honoring someone in their family, and providing a pathway through the garden. And coming up here on our left is a sculpture, a metal sculpture by Jeff Wise. This was just recently installed. Jeff is a well-known metalwork artist, nationally recognized and local to us. Further up to the left here, you'll see bookcase stones, where people, this is another major fundraiser for us, and also continues to reflect our partnership with the library. So these bookcase stones, people can have their names of loved ones or companies or whatever inscribed on them and placed on the wall. Again, this is one of our major fundraisers. Our future includes painting this wall with a new mural, a botanically themed mural, which will be we think, quite stunning. Also, we have a plan to continue our relationship with the library by building what we are calling the literary garden. We'll be selecting plants that have been featured or somehow reflected in a number of our favorite books or have inspired a number of our authors. So again, thank you for joining us on this tour, and we hope to see you sometime soon at the Durango Botanic Gardens. Thank you.